Today, I'm bringing you some really important information that could affect millions of people across the UK. If you hold a blue badge or know someone who does, you absolutely need to watch this video because major parking rule changes are coming into effect this week, starting from Friday, November 7th. These changes are going to impact where you can park, how long you can park for, and what happens if you get things wrong. So stick with me because we're going to break down exactly what's changing and what you need to do to stay on the right side of these new rules. First, let me give you a quick background on why these changes are happening. The Blue Badge scheme has been around for decades, and it's saved countless people's independence and mobility. However, over the years, more and more people have been misusing their badges, whether by lending them to friends, parking in places they shouldn't, or using invalid badges. At the same time, councils have been struggling to keep things fair and consistent. People in different areas were getting completely different treatment, and that's not right. The government has realized that it's time to tighten things up, make the rules clearer, and most importantly, protect parking spaces for the people who genuinely need them. That's why we're seeing these new regulations come into force. Let me start with one of the biggest changes that's going to affect you right away. In the past, if you had a blue badge, you could park in disabled parking bays, pretty much indefinitely, as long as your badge was valid. Well, that's changing now. From November 7th, most on-street disabled parking spaces are going to have clear time limits attached to them, and we're talking about 2 to 4 hours depending on where you are. This is a pretty significant shift because it means you can't just leave your car parked all day anymore. You'll need to check the signage carefully before you park and make a note of what time limit applies to that particular space. If you go over the limit, you could end up with a fine, and that's not something anyone wants to deal with. The way this works is quite straightforward, and I want to make sure you understand it properly. When the new rules take effect, local councils have been instructed to put up clear signs showing what the time limits are in each disabled bay. Some might be 2 hours, some might be 3 hours, and some might be 4 hours. The idea behind this is to make sure that spaces don't get monopolized by one person all day long. This actually helps more people get access to these valuable parking spots. Think of it as sharing the benefit around a bit more fairly. If you need to stay somewhere longer than the time limit allows, you'll need to move your vehicle. I know that sounds inconvenient, but it's the reality of these new rules. Now, here's something really important that I need to emphasize. You must display your blue badge correctly at all times. From November 7th, the enforcement of this is going to be much stricter. Your badge needs to be placed on the dashboard or hanging from the rearview mirror, where it's clearly visible through the windscreen. The photo side should be facing down so that the official markings are visible to traffic enforcement officers. This might sound simple, but you'd be surprised how many people get this wrong. An incorrectly displayed badge, or a badge that's damaged or faded, can result in a fine even if you're parked in the right place and within the time limit. So before you park, take a moment to check that your badge is in good condition and displayed properly. If your badge is looking a bit worn around the edges, get in touch with your local council and ask for a replacement. I want to talk to you now about something that causes a lot of confusion. The blue badge is absolutely not a license to park anywhere you want. This is one of the biggest misconceptions that I come across. Even with the new rules in place, there are still places where you simply cannot park, period, regardless of whether you have a badge or not. You cannot park in coach bays because those are reserved for coaches. You cannot park in bus stops because that disrupts public transport and endangers passengers. You cannot park in taxi ranks, in cycle lanes, on pedestrian crossings, or in areas where there's an active loading or unloading restriction. You also need to be very careful about yellow lines. While the badge does allow you to park on single or double yellow lines for up to 3 hours in many cases, this only applies if there's no loading restriction in force. If you see a curb marked with loading restriction lines, you cannot park there at all, even with your badge. Another area that's getting a lot tighter is how the authorities are treating private car parks. Shopping centers, supermarkets, hospitals, and other private car park operators are now being given much stricter instructions about enforcing blue badge rules. They're installing security cameras and training their staff to check badge validity. If someone is caught misusing a badge in a private car park, the fines can actually be higher than they are on the street. So if you're parking at a supermarket or a shopping center, make sure you're following the rules to the letter. Display your badge correctly, stick to any time limits that are shown, and make sure you're actually the person named on the badge. or that you're dropping off or picking up the badge holder. Let me address something that gets people into serious trouble. Lending your badge to someone else is not just against the rules, it's actually a criminal offense. I want to be very clear about this because I've spoken to people who thought they were just doing a favor for a family member or a friend, and they ended up facing serious consequences. The badge belongs to you and you alone. It cannot be used by someone else to do your shopping, run your errands, or park for free while you stay in the car. The only time someone else can use your badge is if they're actually dropping you off or picking you up, and they need to park temporarily to do so. Using your badge for anything other than that is misuse, and the penalties are getting tougher. Councils can now hand out fines of up to £1,000, take your badge away immediately, and even start legal action if the misuse continues. Now let's talk about the eligibility side of things, because this is where some really good news is coming in. The government has recognized that disability comes in many forms, and some people experience what we call invisible disabilities. These are conditions like autism, anxiety, dementia, and other mental health or neurological conditions that make it genuinely difficult for someone to walk long distances or cope with journeys, even if they look fine on the surface. From November 1st onwards, the Blue Badge scheme is being expanded to include more people with these invisible disabilities. This is fantastic news because it means that more people who genuinely need support will be able to access it. Along with this expansion of eligibility, the assessment process has also been updated. Previously, you might have had to be assessed by an independent medical professional who might not have been familiar with your specific condition. Now, the system allows for medical assessments by a broader range of healthcare professionals, including your own GP or specialists who know you well. This makes the process more accessible and means that people won't have to jump through as many hoops to prove their need for a badge. If you're applying for a badge or renewing one, you might need to provide more recent medical evidence than before. But the good news is that the assessment process should be more straightforward for many people. If you're coming up to a renewal, here's what you need to know about the new process. Councils are now checking applications much more carefully than they used to. You might be asked for up-to-date medical reports, or you might need to attend an assessment to prove that you still qualify for your badge. The key is to not wait until the last minute. I would really recommend starting your renewal process at least 12 weeks before your badge expires. That way, even if there are delays or you're asked for additional information, you'll have time to get everything sorted without risking a break in your parking privileges. If your badge expires and you haven't renewed it yet, you won't be able to use it until you've completed the renewal process and been approved again. Let me give you some practical tips for navigating these new rules successfully. First, always check the signage before you park. Local rules can vary quite a bit from council to council, and what's allowed in one area might not be allowed in another. Second, keep your badge in perfect condition. If it's starting to look faded or damaged, contact your local council for a replacement. Third, set a timer on your phone when you park so you don't accidentally exceed the time limit. Fourth, always display your badge correctly with the photo side facing down and positioned so that it's clearly visible through the windscreen. Fifth, never lend your badge to anyone else, no matter how much they might ask. It's not worth the risk. Finally, if you do receive a parking fine, despite displaying your badge correctly, don't just accept it. You have the right to appeal. Gather your evidence, take photographs of your badge, the parking clock if you used one, and the relevant signage. Check whether you displayed your badge correctly and whether you stayed within the time limit. Many councils have informal review processes specifically for Blue Badge holders because they understand that even careful people occasionally make genuine mistakes. If you can demonstrate that you followed the rules, you should be able to have the fine overturned. Here's the bottom line. The Blue Badge scheme is absolutely vital for maintaining independence and mobility for millions of people across the UK. These new rules aren't designed to punish genuine users. Instead, they're designed to protect the scheme, ensure fair access for everyone who needs it, and crack down on the people who are misusing it. By understanding these new regulations and following them carefully, you can continue to enjoy the benefits of your badge without facing penalties. Stay informed, stay compliant, and keep enjoying the independence that your badge provides. If you found this information helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more updates on changes that affect your daily life. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.